Diddy's final shot at freedom is slipping away. Former President Trump has made it clear he won't be granting the music mogul a pardon, shutting down what many believed was Diddy's last lifeline. On top of that, the judge has rejected his staggering $50 million bail request, leaving him with no way out as sentencing looms just a month away. With the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars now more real than ever, questions swirl. What exactly did Diddy say to Trump that
now clarifies his comments during an interview with Newsmax on August 1st.
Sean Diddy Combs,
right?
Would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do, still in jail or something, but he was celebrating a victory, but he seems, I guess it wasn't as good as a victory. Probably, you know, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great. And seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
Yeah, and it's hard, you know, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible statements. So I don't know, it's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs,
I would
sounds
say
like.
so.
Okay.
Adding to his troubles, Diddy is now facing a new lawsuit, this time naming both him and his son, Justin Combs. The suit alleges that in 2017, a woman was lured to Los Angeles with the promise of a job, only to be held captive for an entire weekend and subjected to repeated assaults.
White House official declined to comment on, quote, speculation and told us any decision on pardons would come from the president himself. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said he has not talked to the Trump administration about it. You mean to tell me that you really have nothing to do with a possible pardon right now?
Nothing. I have nothing to do with a possible pardon.
What is Sean Combs saying about the possibility of a pardon?
I think he knows I'm not political. We've never discussed it other than I tell him what's in the news about it. But you know.
And what's his reaction? Does he laugh? Does he say, let's look into it? What does he say?
Go tell him that I need a pardon. Go tell him I deserve a pardon. That's what he said.
How are you preparing him?
So I mean, I tell him what the guidelines are. You know, and the guidelines are about 2 or 3 years. And I tell him, you know, the judge could go above the guidelines.
Do you have any regrets in how you tried this case?
It's a good question. Not really. Not really.
You called the relationship between Combs and Ventura a great modern love story. Ventura said she was physically abused and became addicted to drugs because of Combs.
I think that's what makes it. We vehemently deny. And I know I respect that she said that. I don't think the jury concluded that happened. In terms of the, you know, the drugs and the other stuff, I think that's what makes it a modern love story. I think she very much loved him, and I know he very much loved her.
Cassie Ventura's attorney told us that Agnifilo's description of the relationship is a, quote, complete disgrace and affront to survivors of domestic violence.
In one press interview, Trump acknowledged that he and Diddy had once been friends and even suggested he would consider looking into a pardon. More recently, however, Trump struck a different tone, saying Diddy was basically, I guess, sort of half innocent. He described it as a victory of sorts, but one that didn't feel like much of a victory at all.
Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know, he didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden, you know. It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know, I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Now, the final thing I want to say is this. I asked Joe Tacopina, what about Trump's comment? What does it do to the jury? And he thought it was a nightmare for Diddy that Donald Trump said this. And the reason he thinks that is when the jury goes into deliberations, they could end up saying, look, I mean, even if we convict him, because we kind of think he's guilty, we're not sure he's guilty, but if we find him guilty, he's probably going to get pardoned because Trump kind of sent that message.
The people around Diddy have been talking about the possibility of a presidential pardon for years. Suge Knight said that Diddy has been an informant for the feds, and they're going to help him escape a sentence one way or the other. Diddy was feeding information to the feds. The cops knew exactly what Puffy was involved, but Puffy never got indicted. This was why Diddy was so open about his crimes. He knew nothing was going to happen.
Suge, do you think he's going to be all right because someone's going to tamper with the jury? Is that what you're trying to say?
He got enough influence, and I'm quite sure, don't seem like the prosecution is that bad against him. Don't seem like I think he got some favors with the government. I think they're going to show him a little leeway. It might not seem like it when it's all said and done, but I don't think he has nothing to worry about. I don't think he's worried because he's going to be federal. And if he gets convicted, Trump's going to pardon him. So what's the worry?
You think the President of the United States would pardon Sean Combs for trap?
Shit, he pardoned Michael Harris, who eventually killed a Jewish teenager, or had him. So they don't care about that. It's all about, what's in it for the long run and what the bucks say and what the power of the people want.
How does it go on for so long? When we were on the street, we didn't get a day's rest. I mean, the government was all over us. The FBI is all over us. They got investigations on us. They got informants. They got surveillance equipment.
He was Mike, not cutting you off, but he was an informant for years.
Was he really?
Yeah. That's why when people was like, oh, he's going to run, he's not. The reason why these type of people get caught up, they always think they bigger than the law because they part of the law, And as you know, all these people get tired of their rap.
To make matters worse, prosecutors are now pushing for an even harsher sentence. Reports suggest the judge may disregard federal guidelines and hand Diddy a term far longer than he anticipated. Since those guidelines don't cap the length of his sentence, the final decision rests entirely on what the judge deems appropriate under the circumstances.
Have got too serious of a point. Seeing what's going on, white men like Trump need to be banished. That way of thinking is real dangerous. This man literally threatened the lives of us and our families about going to vote.
Stand back and stand by.
Stand back and stand by.
Yeah.
We're in a war. We're not taking this like it's a war. We're taking this like, oh, we're in a presidential election. No, we're in a war of love versus hate. The number one priority is to get Trump out of office. The tribe of people that have the responsibility and really should be scared to death of this man is white people.
Explain.
If this man is elected, we're not standing by no more getting killed. We're not scared of anybody standing up and standing by. We're on the verge of a race war.
Diddy's attorneys have submitted a fifth request for bail, this time putting forward a $50 million bond package. The offer includes his Miami mansion as collateral, surrendering his passport, strict limits on travel, no access to phones or the internet, and home confinement under private security. The move underscores Diddy's fear of what could happen to him in prison, and critics argue that if he's ever released, he won't stick around for long.
White men like Trump need to be banished.
Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war. That's why this message is not just to black people. You know what I'm saying? This message is to everybody. This man is really trying to turn us against each other and put us in a situation. America messed up.
President Trump even called him a good friend on a 2012 episode of his TV show The Apprentice. Problem is, some comments Diddy made about Trump in recent years as Diddy really entered the political realm. There was a video where he's speaking to radio host Charlemagne saying, "If Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war." In another video on Revolt, he says white men like Trump need to be banished. And by the way, you know who's not letting anyone forget this? Combs' rival 50 Cent. Took to social media recently, wrote, "See, Trump don't like S like this, buddy. You run your mouth too much." And Donald doesn't take well to disrespect and doesn't forget who chooses to go against him. While working tirelessly to make America great again, there is no room for distraction. He would consider pardoning anyone who is being mistreated, not Puff Daddy. And let me tell you, the idea of Trump pardoning Diddy is not getting a ton of love out there.
Judge Arun has ruled that Diddy poses a serious flight risk, and given his history of violence, no amount of money can justify granting him bail. Both Cass's attorney and her friend Deontay Nash have submitted statements urging the court to deny Diddy's release. Their concern is clear. If Diddy were freed, he could retaliate against those who testified against him. For Cassie especially, the threat is real. Her safety would be in jeopardy if Diddy were granted bail or a pardon.
First of all, he got to be charged and be in prison to be pardoned. You got to realize that the feds could take this case for 2, 3, maybe 4 years, and Trump will be out of office. You don't know how long the feds is gonna go on with this. You understand what I'm saying? You hear people talking crazy talk. Well, they ain't got nothing because, man, I've seen the dude sit behind bars for 2 years before he had his trial with the feds. And by the time a pardon come in, another year will come by. So that's just a whole lot of propaganda. Puff wasn't even f***ing with Trump like that no more. He was going against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is petty as 50 Cent. Do you understand that? You see how petty 50 is? Donald Trump is just as petty as 50, bro. And he gonna look at it and say, yo, why should I help this motherfucker when he talking shit about me? The Diddler. I seen them in a meeting together before. Al Sharpton, Wendy Williams, Puff Daddy, and Donald Trump at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown. And I'm sure he was telling them because all this shit is planned, bro. Yo, you know I'm gonna be president one day. I'm gonna need y'all support. But they flipped. You understand what I'm saying? They flipped. Because everybody was dealing with Donald Trump at one time. That was in the music record business and all that stuff like that. So my whole thing about it is, all that shit is propaganda, bullshit. They just having somebody, they need something to talk about. Donald Trump probably wouldn't on Puff if he was on fire.
Even with the possibility of a pardon, Diddy would still be facing at least a year or more behind bars. He hasn't even been sentenced yet, and a pardon can only take effect once he's actually serving time. That process alone could stretch well over a year, and during that period, anything could happen. Diddy is fully aware that his reputation on the streets puts him at serious risk in prison, where plenty of people would see it as the perfect opportunity to settle old scores.
You heard how Trump he spoke on giving Puffy a pardon? You heard what he said about it?
He still would have, if he pardoned Diddy, as far as I know, he would still have to go through the process. I don't think Trump is just going to send the marshals or the Department of Justice, cheese them over there to the jail, yo, get Diddy out. And when he had friends that went to jail. Remember, he had friends that went to jail who worked for him, who did some shit. What did he do? They went through the same process that every person go through and give him a pardon. And that might take a year, that may take 2 years. But he's gonna have to go through the process first because I don't think Trump is gonna show him any special favors for him not going through the process. So if Trump said that he may pardon him, he might still have to do a year, 9 months, or even longer than that. And I don't believe he is. I think 50 gonna be right there in his ear. And I think 50 is closer than Trump than Diddy is.
Perhaps the biggest factor in Trump shifting his stance on Diddy is 50 Cent. From the moment rumors of a possible presidential pardon surfaced, 50 Cent began posting clips of Diddy's past attacks on Trump, reminding him why forgiveness shouldn't be on the table. In one tweet, 50 put it bluntly, "See, Trump don't like stuff like this, buddy. You run your mouth too much."
In early July, Combs was convicted on 2 prostitution-related charges, each carrying a maximum sentence of 10 years. He was found not guilty on the more serious racketeering charges.
Today's a great victory.
After the July verdict, prosecutors initially expected Combs would face a prison term of 4 to 5 years, according to CBS News. However, according to a written submission filed Thursday in a Manhattan federal court, as reported by the Associated Press, the expected sentence is now substantially higher. The submission also opposed Combs' request to be released on a $50 million bail ahead of his October 3rd sentencing. The filing also says Combs must remain in custody until sentencing unless he can prove exceptional circumstances, and according to prosecutors, he cannot. This comes after a previous bail request for $1 million was also denied following the verdict. A federal judge ruled there was no evidence to suggest Combs doesn't pose a danger to others or the community. With these latest developments, Combs will remain in jail until his sentencing on October 3rd.
In opposition to Diddy's bail request, and the prosecutors say they're actually looking for a more lengthy sentencing than what they originally thought. In this opposition, the prosecution is laying out the fact that the judge already denied Diddy's bail for being a violent person, and they hone in even more into Diddy's alleged violence against people. Prosecutors are saying that Diddy has actually been lying when he said that he didn't commit violence between his breakup with Cassie Ventura in 2018 up until 2024 with his incident with Jane. Let's go ahead and jump right into this motion. The government says despite the court's clear ruling that the defendant must be detained pending sentencing following his conviction on 2 felony counts, the defendant moves again for bail. The defendant's detention pending sentencing is mandatory. There is no exceptional circumstances justifying his release. Even if there were, the defendant cannot demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that he is not a danger to the community. This court properly denied the defendant's request for bail on July 2nd of 2025, and the defendant has failed to present any reason for the court to reconsider its ruling. The court should deny the defendant's motion on this again on that basis alone, but then they get into listing more reasons. The defendant has failed to meet the strict standard for reconsideration. As an initial matter, the defendant's motion is untimely under Rule 49 because the motion was filed 27 days after the court's July 2nd, 2025 bail determination. The defendant fails to meet Rule 49, which is a 14-day deadline. Go on to say that Diddy has failed to show any exceptional reasons why he should be released on bail waiting sentencing.
Gandil predicted this outcome a year ago, insisting that Trump would never grant Diddy a pardon. Their friendship, he said, was long over, and Trump wasn't about to risk the backlash that would come from pardoning someone with Diddy's reputation. According to those close to the former president, Trump felt personally disrespected and made it clear he wouldn't go out of his way to help someone who had publicly tried to humiliate him.
Diddy's legal problem. So Diddy's legal team has just filed a motion for bail. They're offering $50 million. They're, basically arguing that it's unfair that he's behind bars, given the nature of his conviction. His attorneys are asking the judge to approve the $50 million bond package, and they want him to live on house arrest in his Miami mansion while he waits, for his convictions. Now, the judge, has ordered Diddy to remain in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center until October 3rd, when his sentencing is set. So, and remember, the judge also, cited during the case that Diddy's admitted violence towards his former lovers, including Cassie. He said, quote, "It's impossible for the defendant to show he possesses no danger to any person." So he said that. So that's the reason he felt that he needed to stay behind bars. So I'm wondering, if this, if this will still apply.
To the Sean Diddy Combs case, we may learn this week if he will be released on bond while he awaits sentencing. His lawyers filed a request asking the judge to release Combs on $50 million bond. Combs was convicted earlier this month on charges of transportation to engage in prostitution, and he was acquitted of more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. The government is expected to respond by this Thursday. Combs' sentencing is scheduled for October.
For years, those close to Diddy have speculated about the possibility of him securing a presidential pardon. Suge Knight even claimed that Diddy had been working as an informant for federal authorities and would be protected from serious consequences. According to these claims, Diddy was regularly feeding information to the feds, explaining why, despite police knowing about his alleged activities, he was never indicted. Believing he was untouchable, Diddy felt comfortable being so open about his actions.
Let's see what's going to happen with this Diddy trial. Federal prosecutors are now responding to Diddy trying to get out, right, while he's waiting to get sentenced. And so basically what prosecutors are saying is that they believe that his response, that his crimes reflect aggravating, not mitigating factors, and they want to justify his continued incarceration. Diddy had said that he's just a John. He's not the one that participated in having sex with these male escorts. He only watched. And his ex-girlfriends are the ones that had sex. Well, they said that ignores the fact that he transported individuals for the purpose of prostitution on hundreds of occasions over the course of decades. And they also said he did ply Cassie and Jane Doe with drugs to make sure they would participate in marathon freak-off sessions while victimizing them through his violent outbursts. So they said he should not be released on a $50 million bond because he does pose a danger and he has a history of violent behavior.
Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail after the verdict in his trafficking case, and here's how he took the news. According to NBC News reporters in the courtroom, Combs appeared, quote, deflated as his hopes of going home were seemingly dashed as his lawyers attempted to convince Judge Arun Subramanian to release their client ahead of his sentencing. In his ruling, Subramanian cited Combs' years-long pattern of violence as a reason for him to remain behind bars, adding that he continues to be a danger to others and unable to follow the law, arguing that Combs, who pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, as well as transportation to engage in prostitution, was acquitted on the three most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering and only convicted of prostitution-related offenses. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo insisted he should be released on appropriate conditions. As Agnifilo outlined, Combs would be willing to put up a $1 million cash bond co-signed by his mom Janice Combs, his sister Keisha Combs, and Sarah Chapman, the mother of Combs' eldest daughter Chance Combs, and have no access to his private plane, which is currently grounded in Maui. He also agreed to surrender his passport, undergo drug testing, and restrict travel to areas of New York, Florida, and California as necessary to attend court and meet with lawyers.
CNN revealed a few weeks ago that Diddy's legal team had been in discussions with the Trump administration about a possible presidential pardon. For weeks, Diddy's lawyers denied any such talks were taking place. But once White House officials confirmed the conversations, they were forced to acknowledge the truth. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, admitted that his client had instructed him directly, "Go to Trump and tell him, I need a pardon."
Sure. So the Mann Act was passed in 1910, and it's changed a few times through the years, but really what it's geared at, what it's focused on, is prosecuting people who make money from the business of prostitution. And that's not the allegation against Mr. Combs. The allegation of Mr. Combs, what the jury found, essentially was that he was a user of services provided by workers, essentially a John, for lack of a better word. And the Mann Act just historically hasn't been applied to Johns. It's a financial statute. It's really been applied at people who look to make money from prostitution. And so since that's not how it's being applied here, we made the argument that we have to, under the case law and the statutes in this area, that this is an exceptional reason and that Mr. Combs should be considered for release on bail because of it.
Well, Diddy is upping his offer to the government. He wants out of jail right now. You know that he is still behind bars at Brooklyn MDC while he is awaiting his sentence in October. But right after he was sentenced, they tried to get out on bail. They made an offer. They said, we'd like for him to be released on $1 million bail. The judge shut that down. So now it's like he's playing Let's Make a Deal, right? How about this, Your Honor? What if
we offer a $50 million bail package. The money has gone up, but the reason that he thinks he should get out is because he says what he's convicted of were nonviolent offenses.
And he's right. He's right that he was convicted on 2 counts of the Mann Act. The Mann Act is hiring a prostitute and taking the prostitute across state lines. It's a nonviolent crime.